A Voyage Without My Father. The painful incident of Aunt Madge and the electric mangle. I'm not sure why I was with my aunt on a Monday when I should have been at school. Perhaps it was half-term, or because my mother and brother were working, so Madge had to look after me. What I do remember is that it was washing day, and Mrs. Scopey, my aunt's daily help, was busy separating the white laundry from the colours and stuffing the appropriate pile into the washing machine. This procedure was then followed by taking the wet dripping clothes or bed linen and feeding them into an electric mangle, the rubber rollers squeezing as much moisture out of the fabrics as possible in readiness for ironing. The tumble, or clothes dryer, was not evident in the Meal household, so to prepare the fabric for ironing, it was either the mangle or the washing line. I was fascinated by this marvel of engineering and stared as the sheets and other clothes were taken up by the roller as they descended into the ironing basket placed beneath, appearing almost dry on the other side. It must have been when Mrs. Scopey went to extricate the next batch of clothes from the washing machine, because nobody was in the utility room when my foolhardy action took place. Like a king cobra's rhythmic movements, hypnotizing its prey, the mangle's rubber rollers called to me, and slowly, very slowly, I moved forward to gingerly place my fingers on their soft, rotating, pale cream surfaces. Immediately, the inevitable happened, and the machine, being unable to determine whether I was hosiery or human, dutifully drew my fingers into its squeezing and flattening jaws. It was only when it was up to my wrist that the full import of what was happening dawned on me, and I appraised the household of my dilemma. I screamed like a banshee. A banshee is a female spirit in Irish mythology who heralds death and destruction. I certainly feared my imminent demise. Madge and Mrs. Scopey rushed in and, seeing my predicament, took immediate action. Realizing that if they turned off the machine, I would still be trapped. They did what they thought best in the heat of the moment. Rather than releasing the rollers, they put them into reverse. The rollers, which by then had consumed my arm up to the elbow, dutifully squeezed my arm out. The pain was excruciating as the veins, blood vessels, and tendons resumed their natural state, although the flesh remained flattened. Madge flexed my arm and bent my fingers to determine whether bones had been broken, and thankfully none had. A cold compress was applied, and as my tears subsided, so did the pain. Copious amounts of iodine was then applied to my skin to kill any germs that may have been transferred, although in fact the skin was not broken. Iodine supposedly facilitates wound healing, but there is no good scientific evidence to support these uses. It does, however, leave a very noticeable yellow stain. My arm was then placed in a sling to protect it further. Hot tea was then produced with copious amounts of sugar for the shock, I was told, and I was encouraged to drain every last drop. It's an old remedy, the basis being that sugar helps to counteract the adrenaline lost when you have a shock. Even if it's not a horrible shock, the sudden onset of an adrenaline rush, followed by the sudden lack of it, can leave people weak and shaking. It certainly did with me, and I was placed on the very comfortable couch in the lounge to recover. A blanket placed over me, and a kiss was planted on my forehead, and immediately I drifted off into a pained sleep. On their return from the working day, Aunt Madge appraised my mother and brother of the painful incident of the electric mangle. My mum was duly sympathetic. My brother less so. "You bloody idiot, and your right arm too." The lesson learnt: if you are going to experiment, make sure that someone is with you, either to dissuade you or to pick up the pieces.